Today, we'll discuss Iran's new situation from kingdom to Mullahdom, and so what next? When Ayatollah Khomeini flew back from Paris February 1st, 1979, after the Shah Reza Pahlavi was brought down by the Iranian Revolution, it was clear what would happen. He first killed off all his leftist and communist comrades in arms who had helped him get rid of the Shah, and then consolidated power to become the supreme leader with a weak parliament that would do his bidding. His brand of cultural revolution involved strict enforcement of the Sharia, specifically the Shia brand of Sharia. So let us remember that the Shah Reza Pahlavi had set up a kingdom propped up by the UK and the USA. His claim to monarchy was tenuous at best. So, whatever modernization the Shah had introduced into the 4,000 year old proud Iranian culture, from Darius, from the old Iran that was fighting with Athens for a long time, the Iran that gave trouble to the powers that be in Sparta, Athens, all over the Hellenic system. Well, that proud Iran ended up being a Mullahdom. Was Shah's modernization was wiped out quickly, but there were many in the world, including the West, who read into his arrival an anti-colonial process, a revolution that was inevitable. And then the Ayatollah had his detractors for sure, but quite a few admirers, especially in the Muslim world. After President Carter's debacle in getting the US Embassy staff released, the Iranian Revolution took on a more anti-American stance. The seizure of the US Embassy in Tehran on November 4, 1979, and the subsequent 444-day hostage crisis fundamentally intensified the anti-American stance of the Iranian Revolution, turning the United States to a central adversary of the new Islamic Republic. The US became the Satan. Now, however, hostility between the West and Iran abated for a while during the Gulf War, making for a temporary, pragmatic, and limited thaw in relations. While Iran remained ideologically opposed to the US and the West, and the presence of US in the region, the conflict created a temporary enemy of my enemy kind of concept. Iran was happy to see Saddam Hussein, their old nemesis, bashed up and bruised, and Iran actually made up for the power vacuum there and got into the southern part of Iraq, but also pretty soon had a pretty good hold on the Iraqi politics. Now, but here's the sad part: hubris takes over. Ahmadinejad, the prime minister of Iran, with the blessings of the Ayatollah at the time, repeated statements to nuke Israel and also promoted Iran's overt and covert support of Hezbollah in Lebanon. It made the Middle East very troubled. Ahmadinejad, while being weak at home, was saber-rattling, and it toured Lebanon, and the trip was designed to bolster his image, his status worldwide. It succeeded to some extent, at least in Lebanon, but pissed off a lot of the West and especially Israel. He thus got a platform for shaking his fist at Israel and boost his Hezbollah clients in Lebanon. And Iran managed the Hezbollah from behind the scene for a long time, for over a decade, and promoted their brand of jihad in the Middle East. So when the first powerful mullah, Khomeini, died, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the person who was just wiped out yesterday, became the supreme leader of Iran in June 1989. That's a long time. Following the death of Islamic Republic's founder, the Ayatollah Khomeini, Ruhollah Khomeini. Ali Khamenei, grabbed more power to himself, making the elected prime minister just a figurehead. He was elected by the Assembly of Experts, and Khamenei served as the head of the state for over 36 years until he was killed yesterday. Now, the Mullahdom has survived for 45 some years. What comes next is hard to say. The Taliban were swept out of power in Afghanistan in 2001 after the 9/11 incident. Thousands died in 9/11, and subsequently over $1 trillion was spent in taming the Taliban in Afghanistan. So now, the Taliban came back to power and to rule the devastated country in 2021 or so. Now, however, what one has to remember in the Middle East is the Shia Sunni rivalry of 1,000 years. The fight to control the Strait of Hormuz and the Oman Sea, the oil lanes, one might say, and the attempts by Russia and China to have a say in the affairs of the Middle East will keep it boiling for a while. A few more decades, it seems. It looked like the Sunni Saudis had made a deal with the Shias, Iranians, just a year ago, facilitated by China, among others. Not sure where that will go next. The Saudis and the good old Turkish, the NATO member Turkey, along with Pakistan, the non NATO ally from 30 years ago, are all up to something now. It'll be interesting to see where this goes next. But so the kingdom gave way to the Mullahdom, and so what the heck's come next? Interesting times indeed.